Hey everyone! Welcome back to the Kindness Code, where we're cracking the code to make the world a kinder, more inclusive place. I'm your host, Adler Lee, and today I'm so excited because we have an incredible guest joining us. She's someone who is all about helping people feel like they truly belong. Meet Miss Janine Jones. She is the assistant head of School for Community and Belonging and an associate director of admission at Harvard-Westlake School. Since joining the institution in 2015, she has been instrumental in fostering a welcoming and inclusive environment. Ms. Jones is also the school's first head of diversity, equity, and inclusion. Before her tenure at Harvard-Westlake, Ms. Jones practiced law at prominent firms, advised former Ohio Governor Ted Strickland as a senior advisor and deputy legal counsel, and taught law courses including legal writing. She earned her BA in French from Spelman College and a JD from Howard University School of Law. Today, we're going to chat about what it really means to create a community where everyone feels seen and valued, and how kindness plays a huge role in making that happen. So, without further ado, let's welcome Ms. Jones to the Kindness Code. Thank you so much for being here.
Absolutely. Thank you, Adderly, for having me.
So to start off, what inspired your journey into diversity, equity, and inclusion? Was there a particular experience or moment that sparked your passion?
Yeah, great question. Thank you for asking. What inspired my journey into diversity and equity and inclusion was really inspired by the work of my late father. My father passed away in 2012, but before he passed away, his life was dedicated to this work, starting from the time in the late 1960s where he earned his PhD from The Ohio State University as one of the first Black men to be awarded such a degree and to have earned such a degree from such a large and prominent institution like The Ohio State University. And so he grew up in the Jim Crow South. So he was born and raised in New Orleans, Louisiana, and firsthand experienced discrimination. And so you'll learn about, if you haven't already learned about, Jim Crow laws and what that meant for a person of African descent living in the United States of America. And so that's at the core of who I've always been with him as my father. And so through his work, teaching people who were getting their PhDs in education, he was instrumental in bringing the work of diversity, equity, and inclusion into all of the educations of higher learning that he was a part of. And so I've grown up with diversity, equity, and inclusion being central to my life.
It's nice that you carried it on.
Absolutely. I'm trying to.
So, speaking of carrying it on, what has surprised you the most about the impact of diversity on campus communities in Harvard-Westlake and elsewhere?
I think what surprised me the most is when I see it happening without the words and without it being labeled diversity, equity, and inclusion. Because I've always said to people, it doesn't matter to me what you call the work as long as the work is being done. And so when I see it playing out on the field that exists here at Harvard-Westlake, that I see outside of my window every day, when I see students treating each other with kindness and respect and being super inclusive in their actions, when it's not about getting a good grade or getting into Harvard-Westlake or getting into a really good college. When I see it playing out on a day-to-day basis and I see students acting in a really compassionate way, it doesn't surprise me in a negative way. It just really pleases me to see our students really learning the lessons that we're trying to teach in a way that is selfless, in a way where it really feels like it is authentic and core to who they are. I love seeing that. So it is a pleasant surprise.
So if you could actually implement one change across Harvard-Westlake tomorrow to make them even more inclusive, what would it be and why?
I mean, this is a great question. If I could magically figure out how to instill that sense of character into every single member of the Harvard-Westlake community, I would bottle that up. I would sell it. I would get rich off of that, because to me, that's what's so important, is who you are when nobody's watching. And we just celebrated the life and legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. on Monday, and he has a great quote that says, the measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort, and I'm paraphrasing, but where he stands in moments of controversy. And so I think about that quote a lot, because to me, your character really comes through when no one is watching and when things are really difficult and you have a difficult choice to make. And so if I could figure out how to bottle that up and instill that into every single member of the Harvard-Westlake community, every single human being in the world, I would.
That would make the world a much better place.
It absolutely would. I would love to see that.
No more segregation, no more discrimination.
That's right.
Maybe no more bullying because, about the race.
Yeah, no more bullying across any line of difference, right? So, of course, Martin Luther King was focused on race, but I don't think anybody should be bullied for anything. I don't think anybody should be mistreated for anything. And so if I could live in a world where that didn't exist, I would be an extremely happy person all the time.
Because humans are all the same, right?
That's right.
We're all humans. And then the color doesn't matter. What we're wearing doesn't matter.
That's right.
Or our wealth doesn't matter.
That's absolutely right.
Just like if we could be together and happy.
Yes, absolutely. I agree.
So, what is, one thing that you're proud of about Harvard-Westlake? A part of how they're treating, each other compassionately? And how another example of how DEI is practiced on campus.
Yeah, I guess I would say something that I'm really proud of is that our diversity, equity, and inclusion work is beyond words. And so I think oftentimes people get caught up in the label DEI, or they get caught up in what they think diversity, equity, and inclusion is. And what I am super proud of is that I think that we really walk the walk here at Harvard-Westlake. And so I don't use it as a measure of success, looking at whether or not our students, if somebody walked up to one of our students today and said, how is DEI work practiced at Harvard-Westlake? And if they're unable to answer that question, I'm not offended. If we change the question and we ask them a substantive question about, does the school care about you as an individual? Does the school care about whether or not another student mistreats you on the basis of some aspect of your identity? If they're able to answer those questions in the affirmative, if they're able to say, yes, the school does care about me, the school cares about all aspects of my identity, the school cares whether other students care about all aspects of my identity, the school cares about whether teachers care about all aspects of my identity. If they're able to answer that question with a yes, that to me is a measure of success. And so I'm super proud of the fact that most of our students can answer that question with a yes. That doesn't mean that life is perfect at Harvard-Westlake. It absolutely doesn't. We have human beings, and human beings are fallible. Human beings make mistakes, and we understand that mistakes happen. It's what we do after those mistakes happen that's really important.
What advice would you give to students who would want to advocate for DEI on their campuses, but don't know where to start? Or you can even shout out to the current Harvard-Westlake students.
Of course, I will always take every opportunity I have to shout out our current Harvard-Westlake students. They are absolutely amazing, so thoughtful, so smart, so creative, and I love to see when they are passionate about the work of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and it shows up in so many different ways. It shows up when they are elected as one of our SLIDE co-chairs. So SLIDE is our Student Leaders for Inclusion, Diversity, and Equity. So they put in an application to be a SLIDE co-chair. To me, that's an amazing step in and of itself because they want to step into that leadership role. Or if they want to be a leader of one of our affinity groups, or if they are a captain on our basketball team and they step up when they see that one of their teammates is being mistreated along some aspect or some line of their identity, that to me is something that is praiseworthy. That's something that deserves to be shouted out. And so, yes, there is the opportunity to hold a formal role as one of our SLIDE leaders or one of our affinity group leaders. But I also think that it is important to recognize when they hold another leadership role that you may not think of as part of the diversity, equity, and inclusion work, but when they are serving as moral and ethical leaders in those other roles, that to me is a shout out that is praiseworthy.
So, do you recommend maybe some students start a podcast?
Of course I do.
Maybe they can start advocating.
Absolutely. I think however you choose to use your voice is really important. The most critical thing is that you use your voice. And so some people may use their voice by starting a podcast. Others may choose to have a presence on social media if they have already been allowed to have social media accounts. Others start it by using their voice in classroom or, like I was talking about, on the field when they're just casually hanging out with their friends. So there are so many different ways to use your voice. The most critical thing is just using it.
Ms. Jones, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been such a pleasure having you on the Kindness Code. We're so grateful for your time and for sharing your incredible insights. Thanks again.
Thank you so much, Adderley, for having me. It was my absolute pleasure to be with you.